Welcome, everyone, to District Dialogue, a podcast by the Community Foundation, focused on highlighting the voices shaping the future of education. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to District Dialogue, a podcast powered by the Community Foundation, where we showcase the leading voices moving education forward. Today's guest, we have Shawn Lucena, Director of Career and Technical Education at Nacogdoches Independent School District. Shawn, first off, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Great. So glad to be here.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'd love for you to give us a little bit of background before we jump in on some of the technical and the deep dive on not only your role, but what led you into education, and maybe giving us a snapshot on some of the things that informed you that you wanted to be in this space as well.
Right. So getting into education, that was kind of a long personal journey for me. I was one of those guys that did not take the easy road first. I'm kind of hard-headed by nature, and I blame my father for that. But I had a 4-year full ride scholarship for music down here from Arkansas down to Nacogdoches. And when you get to college and you're not disciplined, uh, your priorities are not what they're supposed to be. I actually had offers from 2 different universities. One was 45 minutes from my parents' house. The other one's 4 hours. So naturally, I picked the one that was 4 hours from my parents' house. And so they weren't there to make sure I got in on time, that I was studying and things like that. So uh, my first 2 semesters here were terrible academically, but very fun socially. And so, long story short, I lost my scholarship, changed my majors, lost my scholarship, moved back home, which when you move out of your parents' house, you don't want to have to move back.
I understand.
And so that's when I started, you just have to try to make ends meet, and you go from job to job. And when it sunk in is coming full circle. I, was working several little jobs. And one of the ones I did was I worked in a junior high library as an aide. And the librarian was so sweet. I loved her. And it was that year of doing that
Mhm.
that I said, you know what? I am going to go back to school.
Wow.
I think I want to be a teacher. Um, Teachers would come in and they'd have classes, and I'd watch them teaching their lessons, and kids would come in, and I'd have to help them find a book or a research project, things like that. And it was a different feeling. I'd never done anything like that before.
Mhm.
And so they were closing the school we were at to turn it to an elementary school. And then they just built this new one. So I moved the library over, and I remember calling the human resources director like 2 weeks before school started. And I said, I'm not coming back next year. I'm going to go back to school and get my teaching degree. He said, Mr. Lucena, he said, you call me when you get done and come see me about a job. And he held true to that. He hired me on the spot. I actually had the room keys before I actually signed my contract, so I could
No
move in.
kidding. No matter.
That's kind of full circle. So I started teaching much later than, I could have been teaching when I was 21, but I was uh, close to 30 when I started. So, but all of that experience and the life lessons you learn when you have to, scrounge and save and sacrifice, like it made me a way better teacher.
I can imagine. I can imagine. That's just what I was thinking as well. You can come in the classroom with some life experience and some stories for the students as well to either relate to or understand, how to navigate better as well. And that's pretty cool that interacting with a librarian was something that just informs you of, okay, this experience is something that I maybe want to, further provide or perpetuate in a positive way as well. That's lovely. I love to hear that. And so also to give, the audience itself a little bit of a snapshot and, a kind of a picture into the Nacogdoches ecosystem and more of, the education space as it relates to different rural ecosystems. Love to get a little bit, again, a picture into, the independent school district that you're at as well.
So Nacogdoches is the slogan here is that Nacogdoches is the oldest town in Texas,
No.
and maybe some of the older members of the audience will know. I mean, John Wayne references it in one of his movies and asks, "Have you ever been to Nacogdoches?" And so it's got a really cool charm here in this town. The school district is kind of a mid-size. The town's about 35,000 people.
Got it.
Uh, the district is around 6,000, K through 12. So the high school is probably closer to 1,800 students.
Wow.
Uh, so our demographics are probably 75, at least three quarters or more, low income students.
Mhm.
Demographically, I think we are uh, probably a third, maybe slightly more on Hispanic population and whatever. So we just have a very diverse population. And with that comes uh, amazing challenges,
Mhm.
amazing success stories. And we are really getting a lot of feedback, a lot of support. Uh, and it's amazing. This CTE program has been in the district for quite some time,
Okay.
and I'm still meeting lots of people that still don't know what we do here. And so, the fun part of my job, which I have lots of fun parts of my job, but is getting out and getting people in our doors, getting our students into their doors of business and industry, and just kind of uh, eliminating that mystery of, "Well, what are they doing? Oh, they didn't used to do that when I was in high school 50 years ago. Oh, we're doing some pretty amazing, innovative things, and it just keeps getting better." And this is only I'm beginning my second year in this role,
Sure.
and we are looking at just some pretty amazing opportunities right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I'll look first off, I love that, and I understand, within your second year, you have some goals as well, so I top of mind, I can understand getting the word out and helping others really understand, so let's dig into that piece as well. Before going into larger district goals, love to just understand your definitions of CTE or career and technical education for the audience. How do you define CTE, and what are some of the things that you use as, success metrics or just, objectives as it relates to what success looks like?
Right. So I don't know if I'm have the credibility to define what career technical education is. I really am truly still learning that myself of
Mhm.
kind of what uh, the state and the nation really uh, sets the standard for, but for I can only speak for our district, and I think that's what I love about this, versus loved my time in the classroom, loved every single day that I taught science, moved into administration as a behavior assistant principal,
Okay.
and then later on a high school principal or secondary principal in a smaller district near here, and looking at all those jobs compared to what I do right now. Uh, is has different types of challenges, but the amount of creativity that I'm allowed to use to solve problems, to create opportunities for students and staff to better our students' lives, our campus, our district, and ultimately our community. The role of CTE is to balance what is the workforce looking for, what do they need, what are the trends and the patterns, and how can we use our funds, our talents, or if we don't have it, go out and look, because there's a lot of things I would love to do. We don't have the money for it, or we don't yet know uh, a staff of who can teach that. We
Yeah,
don't have for example, we don't have an HVAC plumbing program.
understood. Okay, okay.
That is top list of the needs right now.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to figure out right now is how we can start that. So um, how we measure success, what does that look like in our programs? Uh, I got a taste of that at the end of last school year. where we have a CTE signing day, and students, just like they go when they commit to a college,
Yeah.
and they have a document and you take pictures. And so we had 88 students that were signing a letter of commitment to go. So what we do is toward the end of the year, we ask students, are you committed to go to a trade school, 4-year university? Have you signed with an industry to work? Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to work for your father's company or you're going to whatever it is. We upped the number. I don't remember what it was the prior year, but 88 students this year. 44 of those students committed to the university right down the road here in Nacogdoches. 44 of them.
Wow.
And then the rest of them are all scattered across the country. So success feels like that when they say, hey, this is a solid foundation for what I want to do that I received here, 4 years of high school, uh, earned one or more industry-based certifications, and now I'm going to go increase those certifications and skills so that I can go into the field that they chose. So
I love that. And first off, the sign day element, I know it gets and probably keeps the students engaged towards, I know I wanna do that too, so even over the years, they themselves have something to aspire to, and again, it resembles that big, you know, sport university that others may also align with, so that's very cool. And to your point, one of the goals within our organization, Community Foundation, is also to again align, career opportunity with end users and of course education institutions. Just recognizing, to your point, one thing that's a little bit one thing that I think everyone's aware of, just how many plumbers and electricians are going to be needed over the next 10 years. I understand it's and hundreds of thousands of roles that are going to be either vacant or needed. And so, in the same regard, what we've been doing is pointing attention to the vacancies or the gaps within the digital entertainment ecosystem, recognizing that these are spaces that naturally have the attention of our youth as well, right? But a lot of times we, in for good reasons, and of course, in a uh, with the good mindset, maybe steer individuals away from just you know consuming technology too much, but oftentimes we leave out the conversation of how you can contribute to these spaces, whether again it's film and production or even gaming, which is some of the things that we focus on, and or more of the traditional tech roles as well. And I know most people have either a phone or a laptop, but we're not necessarily considering how do I contribute to these mediums that I love and engage with on a daily basis. And so I think that's a natural way to think about it as it relates to success metrics and what a North Star should look like as well. So love that, and I feel like you're aligned not only with our organization but a number of other institutions across the U.S. as well. And so even in your transition from the classroom to administration, I would say, let's give a bit of resources to the educators that are going to be listening into this and identify, again, some of the gaps that you saw within your time, either again in the classroom or as a principal, and how now you're looking to either solve for that or have already been able to solve for that. Love to get some of the, peeks into what exactly you're looking to not only solve at a higher level, but some of those micro opportunities that lead to the bigger, larger macro win.
right. So kind of a unique uh, timing, I think, and it's still. eh, I don't know how to explain all this, but when I started in this role, and I started wandering around the campus and looking into our CTE classrooms and looking at the students, and then realizing that I know a bunch of these kids from ninth through 12th grade from when they were in junior high. Some of them had been into my office a lot for disciplinary reasons. A lot of them just kind of hanging out in the cafeteria, talking to them at lunch and things like that. And so what I would tell educators right now is, you know, the student that you're interacting with in your class at that very moment, there's so much more to that student that than what you're exposed to in that 45 minutes or an hour that they're in your class. And so to see, because as a junior high teacher and administrator, once they leave your campus, they're starting another phase of their life in high school. They do a lot of growing up and they discover a lot about themselves and their talents and their skills. and what they want to do. And so the base person is still there when I'm talking to these kids, and they'll I had real long hair back then, and I always
Mhm.
wore it up. And so when they would see me last year for the first time, they're like, "Hey, Mr. Lucena, you work here now? You cut off all your hair," So like we remember each other, but it's like the little kid I remember still there, but I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing now?" "Oh, I'm in auto mechanics now, and what grade are you in?" "Oh, I'm a junior." So it all last year was catching up with a lot of these kids.
Great.
So, uh, you know, teachers need to realize that, you're contributing to this evolving person, and there's so much more. The rewards that teachers get, and that's the negative of our industry is, in manufacturing, or I watch a lot of car shows.
Mhm.
The satisfaction, even if it takes somebody months to build a hot rod, you get to start it up, you get to run it down the road, whatever. And in education, we don't ever know really when that reward is coming.
Mhm.
You have successes along the way, but it's been so rewarding for me to see these same kids that I remember from junior high at almost the end of their high school career and have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be doing after. So uh, that's kind of a satisfaction I haven't yet experienced in 18 years in education. And so I'm really riding that wave. It's really a a new feeling of satisfaction that I haven't personally felt. Uh, as far as oh, and the other thing is, they'll say, "Hey, do you remember when you did this thing in class?" And because it's a wonder I didn't get in trouble. Some of the stuff that I would just do in class, teaching science. I had a principal tell me, "Hey, if it's for the kids,
Mhm.
it's okay." And I took that to the limit. I mean, we blow stuff up, we do whatever. And so when I run into these kids, and some of them are grown up and they have businesses and things, and I'll run into them, and they'll ask me some of the most seemingly insignificant things to me, but they remember doing that in my class, and that was the most memorable thing. And so, uh, the rewards in education, I think that's the toughest part, is not knowing exactly when you're going to get your kind of emotional reward.
I can definitely, yeah, I would say relate to that same process where, of course, we engage, but you may have an individual in front of you, like you said, only 3 or 4 years, and to your point that you just hope for the best, if you will, in regards to, we know they understand, but will they be able to realize, some of the insights that they understand as well? Leaves a little bit of a question in your mind. And so, if you could just share, I mean, a few examples of real time success, where maybe you've had a moment where you've seen a life changing impact for students, and love to understand what that looked like, whether it's in the school environment or maybe post graduation as well.
Right. Um, Gosh, there's quite a few examples. One I'd love to mention is, when you and people in the audience that can relate to this, where you've been in education for a while, where you start working with former students now as colleagues. Last year, I was kind of in a bind, and I was really looking for someone to teach our criminal justice law enforcement class. And I was really under the gun to find somebody, um, not just anybody, but somebody. And I was kind of at a loss. Um, Came across a guy that I had remembered. We actually crossed paths of when I was not yet an assistant principal. I was still in the classroom. I left science and was teaching a class called outdoor education. And so at that particular time, we recognized kind of a social issue where we had a lot of fear, a lot of mistrust, and things toward law enforcement. And in the class, what I was trying to do was to teach them how to communicate with each other, how to communicate with adults. And through that, we were doing that through competitive games, not necessarily sports, but I found out a lot of people like to play a game called cornhole. You know what that is? Okay.
Absolutely.
And then washers.
Oh,
You know what
not
washers
familiar.
is?
I do not. No.
Okay, so it's a lot like cornhole, but you're throwing big washers, metal washers, into a board that instead of on cornhole, it has one hole, it's
Mm,
got three. And so
okay.
you have a point system, and you're standing, I don't know how far away from each other, but kids loved it. And so we played with the local fire department, which they're very good.
Yeah.
And then that idea evolved into I think I'm going to tackle this issue with a lot of these students that, verbally don't trust the police or law enforcement or basing it on an experience or on TV or hearsay from a friend or whatever. I said, we're going to address this. And so we set out and invited every law enforcement agency we could think of, all the way up to state troopers, which
Mm,
to mention, they had the highest turnout. I found out later that their head office said, if any troopers are in this area, you are to go to this event. And
cool.
we had DEA, we had city police, campus police, sheriff's office, uh, all these people. So in that, I ran into this student who was a sheriff's deputy at that time, and caught up with him, and that was years ago. And I
Mhm.
don't know, his name popped into my head. Didn't know if he was still with the sheriff's office or what. Made contact with him. He was going through some things in his life, and he became my law enforcement teacher. Blew it out of the park last year.
Very cool.
I mean, competitions in the classroom. We got him some additional certifications this year in the classroom. So that's another aspect of success is when you have former students from another life in the classroom,
Mhm.
and now you see and you're working with them in the capacity that we work with them now. Uh, that can say a lot to our education system if they come back to teach others, or uh, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a lot of businesses, a lot of industry of former students that now we want them to come in and talk to our kids and say, "Hey, you're a product of this school system, and now that's your name on the company trucks, all the company trucks. It's your
That's
business.
big. Wow.
We want you to come talk to our students." So, that's a cycle that we actively try to contribute to. We want them to stay in this area, if not this town in the East Texas area. Um, and if they do stay, because the sad part is we all see former students that, you know, they don't do much, they get in
Mhm.
trouble, and things
Mhm.
like that. That happens everywhere. So to actively counter that, where we're gonna not just give them a high school diploma, a lot of these kids are getting uh, industry-based certifications that really propel them far into an industry where they could go to work immediately or start their own business, say cosmetology. And now this year we're starting barbering. When they finish, they have their operator's license. They can go work for somebody or they can open their own. So that's the kind of stuff we're trying to set them up with. And that's what I spend a lot of my summer here looking at what certifications we want to go after. That's been a little bit different than what they've done in years past. Like I want to see how much further we can get them when they leave here.
That's awesome, and I'm glad to hear the success stories, especially to your point around, being able to engage with, former students. And I guess with that same question, maybe leading into how you all interact with the community as it relates to just connecting, really community leaders, business leaders with the different opportunities or pathways that you all are looking to pursue. I'm guessing former students is a part of that, but I'd love to get the fuller picture of how you all, approach and engage the community stakeholders and what messaging you all use to really drive in that urgency to, get establish those long-standing partnerships as well.
Right. So that part, that's not naturally a strength of me personally. but to surround yourself with people that do have those connections. And I have a stack of cards over here
Yeah.
of all the people that I've met last year. And those people connect you with other people. So, um, being in this role, uh, I'm getting better at that. And so there's a lot of people. We have an amazing communications department here in the district.
Okay.
And so they make connections. They are on a lot of boards with our community, the Chamber of Commerce, uh, social and professional organizations. And so we are able to make connections through that route. But a lot of it is old school beating the pavement. And, if I have a few hours in a day or some time in the week that just kind of needs something in there, I go out and meet people, or we create events. We have several events during the year where we invite businesses and industries, not only from this town, but the whole East Texas area, uh, higher institutions of learning, junior colleges, universities, and then even just businesses and industries. And so we increase kind of our network in that way. Um, what I'm finding is people, we're kind of making a lot of buzz right now in CTE, especially in our town, in our area.
Okay.
Um, in some of the projects that we do, some of the partnerships that we formed. One example, we have recently uh, donated uh, a building that our construction students built during a competition, and it's a really neat competition in Houston. It's the Construction Industry Education, the CIE competition.
Okay.
So students they design up to an 8 by 12 building. It's usually like a storage shed or something like that. And then the materials are provided and they have 2 days to build it. And last year, they sent me pictures. It was during the week and it was pouring down rain. They're building it, and it was 13 schools down there, us and 12 other schools. And so we got second in that competition, which was phenomenal for us.
Congrats. Yeah.
So, but then you get to keep the building. So they put it on this big trailer, brought it back. And so the instructors and the students, they said, "Hey, we want to finish this building, finish the shell, put the shingles, the windows. We got windows donated from local businesses, door, things like that, and then donate it to a nonprofit here called Village Knack, and they provide shelter, uh, you know, psychological services, counseling, but they have communities of tiny homes on this property,
I see.
and so that's what they wanted to do with this building. And so we just finished a story. I don't know if it was last week or the week before on the local news for that. So that and those connections with that, now another nonprofit wants to fund a bigger build with our construction students, and they're going to pay for all the materials and fund it. And so they've sent me plans for it. We're coming up with a materials list and see if this is something that we can do. So in providing, I could go out and buy $5,000 worth of materials and say, hey, let's teach the kids how to frame a building, how to build rafters, how to shingle, how to, you know, whatever goes into that. And then so they get the experience, the knowledge, but that's not good enough. That's what are we going to do after that? So we're putting them in as much of a real life, real world experience.
I love that.
You're building it because someone's going to live in this thing. Okay, like you're going to build it like it's yours, and so they're getting that feeling of this is what it's like to do something for somebody else. And even projects not that big. We had a need, a coach that we worked together when I first started teaching. She does pre-K PE now. And she says, "Hey, uh, we have a short balance beam that's been here forever. It's kind of falling apart. Is this something that maybe you guys could do?" I said, "Hey, just send me some pictures." And so I took it down there, and They had lumber, and I said, "Hey, when we," 'cause I didn't know what the balance beam thing was. I'm thinking gymnastics, whatever, and it was just a long beam that the little kids learn balance. And so, the construction instructor put a particular kid on this project, very particular about his stuff. And so I went down there and he was showing me what it was going to look like. And it looked just like the other one, but it was treated. It's going to last forever. And I said, "Hey, is there a way that you can put on the CNC machine and engrave the numbers, all the alphabet, capital and lowercase, and then 0 through 10?" "Oh, yeah, we can do that." He formatted it, spaced it out. He engraved it. It's like 12 feet long. Engraved it, painted it all, so inside was black, and then sanded the black off on the top where it's just in the engraving. Put it together, and when we brought it back to the elementary, immediately we were getting pictures of the students walking on it, and even the little bitty pre-K kids, older kids walking them across. And we went down and showed that kid, and he's like, "I went to that school. I remember this old balance beam." And I said, "Do you realize that tens of thousands of kids over the next, I don't know, 2 decades are going to walk across this thing that you built?" And he said, "Really?" And so we had him sign his name at the bottom and put the date. But see, that's the kind of thing that to us, that's what success is, that the product that they're making gives back in somehow. Culinary does it. Culinary, we went on Thanksgiving, we brought 25 plates to that same organization for the employees and the residents. So, it doesn't end with just the skills. Does this student know how to communicate with the community? Do they know how to give back, use the skills that they obtained here at the school, and give back to their church, their family, their community, their school? So we're trying to broaden the horizon of perspective because, thinking back earlier in our discussion, when I was that age, I I was a fun guy to be around. I made good grades, but maturity wise, I I'm not where a lot of these kids were. And so I want them to be not like I was. And I think that's kind of what's motivating, that big detour that I took in my life. I I don't want them to do that. I want them to have a clear direction, a much better self-discipline and work ethic than I had. And I think all the time, how would my life have been different? I don't want to make any changes, but what would I have been doing if I had a robust CTE program in my little high school? What would I have chosen to do? And sometimes I just kind of end the day or begin the day thinking, as we look at opportunities for these kids, like, is this something I would have liked to have done? Um, one of the industries that just fascinates me right now is cybersecurity, which we're getting ready to ramp up toward the end of this year, starting next year. And the certifications that they can earn in that program, they're going to make starting way more money than I make now. Yeah. So, you know, it, I don't know the scale or the depth of the successes now. I'm just learning how to wrap my head around them as they come in because it happens almost daily. Just the success stories here in our department.
Yeah, how cool. Just to reflect on a couple things you mentioned there. How rewarding is it to either build a home or even build a balance beam that to your point was going to leave that lasting impact. And so I would say even just to assume but infer, it seems like you have a pretty solid grasp on how to connect the education that you're providing to students with the actual needs of the community itself. And it's funny, it's kind of like you saw my notes here is I was definitely going to ask, what are some of the emerging programs that you're excited about? I heard you mention cybersecurity, but even with that, now that I have that understanding, let me know there's other spaces that you're excited about. But I also wanted to get a little bit of background on how do you build out and, refine or define the curriculum that you want to, offer to your end users and your students so that they are, again, meeting the needs of the communities, especially for some of these newer spaces as well.
So when we tackle curriculum, our state defines, the outline, and then there's a lot of resources that we use. And that in itself, I like it being, we have a lot more say in how we do it.
Yeah.
So, and it's a little bit different than, me coming from a science classroom where it's all laid out for you and you do it, pretty much in this order. So we modify some of the curriculum a little bit to fit our needs. Let me go to construction, for instance. We get a list from Texas, the state. So we need to, it needs to end with an industry-based certification. And so they tell us who we can go through to get that. So what we want to do is what resources can we use that would best outline those skills to get that industry-based certification. So um, each program's different, and then we reach out to uh, I reach out to other districts that maybe have done this before. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. We also rely heavily on our industry partners here in this town. They're the experts in it, and I have a list where, and it's just a working document where I list out our programs, and then beside it, I'm listing my contacts that could be of use to us in educating our kids. It could be a resource for internships, summer-based learning, even a school or an industry tour that the class can take, or individually. Hey, I'm really considering going to work at a place like this. Could I go tour? So that's a document that I modify each week on that. Um, so yeah, it's just a little bit different for each program on how we uh, kind of formulate the curriculum. One of the cool things about my job is uh, I'm not an expert in any one of these programs, but I try to hire people that are. And so the unique thing about CTE, you know, a lot of them, they don't have to be a certified teacher. Uh, we look at their work experience, their industry-based certifications, anything like that. So just this week, we lost a certified chef. She was hired by the university that she graduated from to teach culinary, which is huge for her. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And we hired a restaurant owner, a lot of cooking experience. She's now coming to our culinary program. And so if I can hire people that are experts in that field, the curriculum's the easy part. Like a lot of that stuff, they're not following a book necessarily. It's up here. So surrounding and building our team that's like that, that has a passion for what they do, we are really confident and believing that that passion through them is really going to translate to our kids. And so that's the kind of team we're trying to build here.
I love that. And I even to your point around passion, want to maybe pivot a bit to speak not only to some of our families who are those parents, but students directly. One thing I'll just jump in with say is pursuing your interest usually gives you the highest chance of being able to add to the the various space itself. But kind of a 5-step component I've always shared is pursue your interest, right? Because what you're interested in likely is where you're going to have a significant amount of awareness, and with that awareness, you're more than likely, better able to identify some of the gaps within that space, right? And where it could add value, whether it's, from an efficiency perspective or actual innovation within that. And then from there, being able to build the skill sets necessary to, again, provide that efficiency or innovation is going to be a real, life changer as it relates to, just converting something that you might, have affinity for to then being able to add value to that space. But really, it doesn't stop there. The fourth and fifth step are really about then taking the skill set you possess and being able to build language around that as well. And so definitely love and like, understand how, being able to not necessarily pivot, but being able to adjust and be flexible with how you can bring in stakeholders that again bring in that same level of inspiration and now depth of knowledge, and being able to transfer that to the end users is huge. And so with that last step itself, I would say it relates to how you very well or very actually brought in your culinary expert is about presence as well, right? And so having that both physical presence of being in the room or knowing which rooms to be in, but then also the digital presence that helps articulate again the skill sets and that you're able to add value to is huge as well. And so really wanted to again address our families. I would want to get your, if you will, kind of a advocacy moment to share, why is, the CTE direction so important, and how can we better equip and even inspire our youth without seeing one particular career path to pursue some of these opportunities? I love that you shared, 44 out of the 88 individuals that were, a part of participating in that signing day, went towards the, CTE route. But I love to understand how you want to engage the larger conversation with families so they can understand the value, and then more directly, even in encouraging students to pursue this from a broader perspective as well.
So one thing that we do, and this was started before I got here.
Mhm.
It's a very successful program in our junior high school. Uh, and when you walk into this classroom, and it's a double classroom, there's two teachers in there, and so it's set up where there's I think it's 14 or 15 stations, and there's 3 or 4 students in each station, and it really takes some special people to manage this class because if one of the stations may be flying drones or learning about the parts of a small lawnmower engine, or there's a little thing like a culinary section. There may be something about video game development, things like that. And so they have about 3 weeks to explore that. So we are really trying to get students not to wait to high school to start figuring out what they want to do, or the end of their 8th grade year. We need them to start thinking about it much earlier. And so that program is really helping us because we're trying to conquer the students when they make their schedules before they come up to high school of just picking the classes that their friends take, which is detrimental to them. I mean, they may be friends, but really, are you going to do the same thing when you're an adult? You need to draw the line somewhere and do what you're interested in. So we have lots of interest surveys. We have uh, a lot of things that compiles data to point them into, hey, I think you'd really be good at this. You need to explore this. And so once they do that survey, then it picks their top ones, and then it schedules them. So throughout their 7th grade year and 8th grade year, they get a little sampling of what it would be like, what the courses are like in high school. They get a little picture of, these are the jobs you can do in this field. This is kind of the salary range. This is what the market is in this area, or you know, toward a bigger city, or it doesn't matter where you live because this type of work is done remotely. So um, moving down to the junior high is something that we actively try to do. We I just learned probably a month ago about some ideas to provide to the elementaries, uh, to get them to start thinking not about what they want to do, but just what it is. You know, if we could schedule local industries to bring something to those campuses, or in our CTE department, if they could come here or we could go to them, and we could produce some sort of video and interview them and show them operating heavy equipment or whatever it is in their field, and just build uh, just a huge stockpile of videos of different careers here or in our area of East Texas, and allow our elementary students, to just be exposed to it. And, because I remember when I was a kid, uh, growing up in Hawaii, I saw uh, an 18 wheeler, and there's not many 18 wheelers on the big island of Hawaii. But I thought that was a really cool thing when I would watch TV shows and they'd have a big rig. And I'm like, wow, like they can live in that truck and they drive. Like, I wanted to be one so bad because I thought it was, and I would draw them. So, not necessarily pick out your career as a kid, but have the knowledge in there is what that particular thing is. As far as communicating different things with the community, it's just a big game of connect the dots. When I listen to uh, assistant principals and principals of each individual campus, uh, we kick around ideas of, I wish there was a way our kids could see this and see this. And so I come back here, I start making calls to see how certain things can happen. And it's just each conversation, and it's just amazing. Uh, you know, that particular conversation may not fit the need of what I initially called them for, but then, hey, do you guys have this? Or I'd be interested in providing this. And so then it goes on the sheet and it starts, uh, building more and more connections. So what we need them to do is in elementary to know what all these different careers are. In junior high, start tinkering around with these hands-on activities in the career exploration lab, so that when they can narrow it down to a program, because we need them to start one and complete one, which is 3 years, a minimum of 3 years, and then get their certifications. Uh, you know, if somebody changes or wants to change after their sophomore year, they're not going to complete the program, which hurts them. Uh, so we want them to make better informed decisions at a younger age.
I can understand that. And to your point around just seeing things young and wanting to aspire towards that as well, that definitely has a huge impact, I know, on most of us. And really, to your point, will keep, the young people and students as well from just pursuing things that might be a social option versus a real life changer or career opportunity itself. With the last few minutes, you mentioned cybersecurity. And I know, to your point, that's an opportunity where you can connect, your students to careers that aren't immediately in the region that you're living in East Texas. I love to get your, initial understanding of some of the other tech opportunities or tech roles that might be existing. Again, just speaking not only just to parents or families, but then also to educators, recognizing again the modern world we're living in is changing. I've shared this before, but it's, they said 10% of the roles within the tech space, 10%, excuse me, over the last 10 years, 25% of the skills needed to get into this space will change. And then over the next 75% of the skills needed will change as well. And so just recognizing that tech itself is not, it's here to stay. And definitely most companies and industries, even if they're industrial or culinary in nature, are going to leverage technology in one way or another. How are you also preparing students for the different tech careers or tech opportunities that might exist that aren't as, you know, they don't have maybe a degree requirement, or they themselves could be something that you can add value to immediately leaving high school as well?
So the programs that you're talking about, that we are really looking forward thinking in tech industry, uh, we have IT, cybersecurity, and that's one. We have a really good robotics program and an AP computer science program and engineering. And so one of my goals for this year is not to have them separated. I really have some of them working together on projects. For instance, our engineering students, when they are coming up with something to design and print on a 3D printer, what I would really like is for classroom projects, for just like the the building and somebody's going to be living in. What is the purpose of whatever it is that you're building? To For their products to be used in the custom robots that they build in robotics, or, a piece maybe that's something that's really specialized and custom or needed, say in the automotive shop, or something like that. Not just coming up, oh, it's a cool keychain and, whatever. I want each piece that we make to have a purpose. Uh, Computer programming stretches across those disciplines. And we have a training coming up with a company that we are forming a relationship with, not a local company, but they're going to learn the computer languages leading up to the Python language. And that's where I was talking about, where if somebody that starts the program as a freshman, when they're a senior, they will have earned all their credentials to be a junior software programmer that makes 80 something $1,000 a year to start. And so there's a lot of kids that just naturally would, I knew them in junior high. They just gravitate toward that technology stuff, and oh, I know how to do that. Da, 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 da. And so really tapping into that industry, but also letting them know, uh, once you know this, whatever industry you go to, you already speak the language. They tell you what they need, and then you're going to write to communicate to make, you know, the machine do what they need. So we last year we had a donation from a private group, and they bought two of these robotic arms, and so we're going to be using those in robotics, in IT, in computer science and engineering, for them to test their programming skills, to tell the machine, okay, I need to pick this color up and send it over here, and then that machine's going to pick it up from there and move it. So we have local industries coming and say, man, if you guys could produce kids that know how to do this or can run this type of machine, man, I'd hire every single one that you know, graduate. So uh, it's that fine balance between that. But the technology one, we are forming some pretty good partnerships. One being, it's a place called Knack Space, um, that houses a lot of infrastructure for small businesses where they can't handle that kind of stuff, and they put it all in one location. And they have really come aboard. I asked her to serve on our advisory committee, and she gladly does that. She has a whole list of opportunities for our students, hopefully leading into the tech uh, area. So we're excited about what we can accomplish together this year.
That's great to hear, and I'd love that knack space. I'll do some homework and look into how that works and operates. I feel like that should be something that is a model that's duplicated really across the U.S. In both in that tangible in-person format, but then maybe even to your point around how even construction companies, culinary companies might need the digital marketing skills or the the IT tech skills that can be really called in, if you will. And so I recognize that as a real opportunity. Before we leave today, I'd like to get really just you to provide some advice for not only fellow educators but others in the CTE space around how to again make sure that we're providing not only an equitable space but keeping things future ready. And any departing thoughts that you might have.
hmm So, one thing that I would really encourage, and this is something that we uh, built up last year, we're getting ready to start in about 2 weeks. We have partnered with a state college here in Texas, and they've provided us an opportunity to provide dual credit for our CTE kids. And dual credit, I didn't know could operate for programs like this, because they're not right down the street. They're a few hours away. But what they proposed was, let's look at the experience and education of your instructors, and they go through a screening process, and if they get credentialed to teach at the level of that state college, Lamar State College, in Orange and in Port Arthur, then they will issue dual credit free of charge.
Very
So
cool.
our students will not pay college tuition for the credit that they earn in our CTE classes. So I encourage other CTE directors or district administrators to seek out a partnership with an institution of higher education and actively seek for opportunities similar to this uh, for their CTE programs because dual credit is, for AP classes and things like that, and is great. But these advanced classes, dual credit, and things like that do exist for CTE programs, and it actually will propel them further. What we're facing is the normal or just what they're used to. Oh, dual credit. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to college. I don't want to go to college. And what I've asked our teachers to relay to these kids, I understand how you feel that now, but what is it going to hurt you to have 18, 30 college hours on your transcript 10 years from now? What if you got passed up for a job you applied for because you didn't have any college hours or any experience, in a particular skill set or knowledge, but you would have had you taken the free college dual credit classes.
That's good.
So, but they're going to do the same work. Why would you not do it? The counselors are going to put you under a different code, but you're still going to sit in the same seat, doing the same activities, same class by the same teacher. So why wouldn't you? You're you're losing out on a huge opportunity. So we have uh, every kid. Uh, I say every, probably mostly every kid in our CTE program enrolled in that. So, um, the beginning of last year, I didn't know that an opportunity like that even existed, and so we haven't started it yet. But uh, shout out to Lamar State College, Orange, and Port Arthur because we are providing some pretty big opportunities for all of our students. And so another chapter of success stories, there's going to be some challenges, I think, of overcoming that mindset of of college. But I mean, these teachers do an amazing job of teaching them uh, just this is how it is in the real world. It's not hypothetical. Our instructors come from that industry. So they're pretty hard on them. Like our EMT teacher, she is a paramedic.
Yeah.
She puts them in situations, she signs them up for opportunities. They have 8-hour or 12-hour ride alongs. Like that's the real deal. So that's, now that's dual credit. Um, you know, 12 of our programs now will have college credit. So form partnerships with that, form a network in this industry. I'm reaching out to other CTE directors, other superintendents, and things like that. I encourage my staff to do that as well. And then just actively hosting things, maybe in our district or your district, to create scenarios where like minded people kick around ideas because you may hold the key to something that somebody else has. And, if they're making that connection, hey, you need to call this guy. He knows how to do that or whatever. And just that one phone call or that one handshake, when you start saying, oh, I've always done it this way, or I know the guy. Well, what if that guy's not there anymore? Or what if whatever? You can never be satisfied with the network that you have. And I think, I knew coming in, that's where I needed work. But it happens so fast. I'm struggling keeping up with all the names and the names of the industries, and that's why I never put away the business cards. They're always out where I know who to call. So, getting out there, never get surrounded in walls. Find colleges and universities to partner with, and never lose contact with the needs of the individual kid because somebody's going to come along that breaks the mold. Are you preparing them for what they want to do, even if it's never been done before? That can't scare you. There's somebody out there. that you can contact or connect that kid with that will propel them, because the worst thing you can do is, well, I feel threatened because I don't know anything about it, and completely blow that kid off. And they're not going to get what they need. Like, we have the power in our fingertips to reach out and find out, how to provide for each individual kid, even if it's something that's never been done before.
I completely agree. Quite literally is what led me into this space as well. Of most of us as young people get told, hey, get off the game, turn off your phone. But these are now spaces where there are individuals making six figures or more, really just leveraging again our collective understanding or lack thereof within these spaces, and they're solving for the gap. So love the fact that you're advocating once again for educators across the board to really identify where the gaps are and make sure you're solving for that both on the community and industry side, but then also all the way down to the individual student. Just the last question: where can listeners follow your work or engage with you? Also, not just for educators but for those community partners, what's the best way to get in touch?
Best way to get in touch, I guess. Uh, I'm rarely here in my office. I check my email quite a bit. Um, just look up Nacogdoches ISD CTE. We also have a very active Facebook page, Nacogdoches CTE, Train Your Dragons. We put a lot of updates and things. Also, just in the communications, social media for our district, they highlight every success story that we have, and they do a really good job of promoting our programs and our students. You can kind of go back and see, what all we've accomplished last year. But you know, I- I'm an old school guy. I love to talk to people, so you can call me. My contact information is online. Um, so that's just I'll help in any way I can. And if you have ideas, I love to get with like minded people and kick around ideas. And whenever somebody says, "Have you ever considered?" Like, I know we need to get a cup of coffee or something because this is going to take a while, and just conversations like that. Uh, just that's what keeps me going.
Love that.
And usually does that with other people as well. So we're out there. We're doing a lot of great things. So yeah, I hope to hear from a lot of your listeners.
Love that. And to your point, that's part of our job. Our name of our organization is Community for a reason. So we'll make sure that not only if you're interested in connecting with Shawn or other CTE directors, we'll make sure to put together again that community of like-minded individuals. So first off, Shawn, thank you for joining us today. And listen, thank you for our listeners once again to listening to District Dialogue. Thanks for listening. For more stories, updates, and behind the scenes content, follow Community on LinkedIn and YouTube. Have a guest idea or topic you want us to explore? We'd love to hear from you. To learn more, visit communityfoundation.org.